you shouldn't watch The Legend of Korra right after the Avatar The Last Airbender as it gets released on Netflix. Because, spoiler alert, it will most likely disappoint you. A lot.
Mr. Scoffer!
What? It's true.
But The Legend of Korra isn't bad at all. Not on its own. This series kicks ass in many aspects. It just maybe shouldn't be viewed as a direct sequel to Avatar The Last Airbender. I have lots of friends who began to watch The Legend of Korra before The Last Airbender, and they fell in love with the characters, animation, and settings altogether.
I never said that The Legend of Korra is bad. It simply has lots of controversial, problematic issues that will be especially easy to spot if you just finished watching The Last Airbender. First, even though initially The Legend of Korra was meant to be a nostalgic mini-series as a nod to the fans of Avatar The Last Airbender, we only get a glimpse of what happened to Team Avatar. Yeah, we get info on Avatar and Katara's story, we get some familiar Toph Beifong vibes, but we know nothing of Sokka's personal life. We don't know what happened to Suki, Mei, and Ty Lee. We don't even know who Zuko had his daughter with.
That's true. Oh, I wish I knew more about Sokka. He was my favorite character.
There's another issue. In many aspects, The Legend of Korra ruins the lore of The Last Airbender. Korra ends the Avatar cycle, losing all the knowledge and experience of previous Avatars, and also most likely losing Aang's ability to energy bend. Simultaneously, special bending like metal bending, lightning bending, and blood bending all of a sudden becomes pretty common in The Legend of Korra. And special bending being common downplays the importance of these exceptional bending skills in The Last Airbender. Even in The Legend of Korra, it doesn't look as impressive as it could. If every other person can master special bending, it's not that special anymore. I mean, Bolin mastered lava bending. Please.
Maybe the creators of the show wanted to show some overall progress in mastering the magic in the Avatar world. I mean, they introduced pro bending as a team sport, among other things, which kind of means that benders realize that their powers work best when combined and balancing each other out. It means that the approach to bending in all four nations itself changed a lot. The special knowledge which was hard to master in Aang's times became a little bit easier to get in Korra's time. I also think that making special bending more common raised the stakes in battles throughout the series.
Raise the stakes? Too bad one cannot say that about The Legend of Korra in general. The Last Airbender is a finished story. It had an ultimate goal. Aang had to defeat the Fire Lord who wanted to conquer and destroy all other nations. In The Legend of Korra, after defeating Vaatu, who basically is an analog of the devil in Korra's world, in Book 2, all other Korra victories seemed, okay. Zahir and Kuvira were powerful, sure, but Korra had already defeated her most powerful opponent 2 seasons before the finale. And that's only one of the reasons why The Legend of Korra seems so random.
What's that supposed to mean?
Let me explain. If The Last Airbender actually feels like a trilogy, in the case of The Legend of Korra, the only 2 seasons that are properly linked with each other are Book 3 and Book 4. Book 1 and Book 2 have almost zero connections and are basically independent stories. For example, where did all the Equalists go by the beginning of Season 2? What was the purpose of Book 1 if it basically had no influence on all the following seasons? Was the whole first season just a huge intro of the characters? Guess we'll never know. There are some connections between the second and third season, but it felt like the epic ending of Book 2 could easily be the end of this series. Which would be a shame since most of Korra's character development happens in Book 3 and Book 4.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too. For a while, nothing seemed to change with Korra. Nothing at all.
And that's another thing that bothers me about The Legend of Korra. The major characters and their development. The relationships between the members of Team Avatar in The Legend of Korra is nothing like the relationships of Team Avatar that The Last Airbender had. In Team Avatar from The Last Airbender, even the non-bender Sokka was a valuable member of the team. Aang, Katara, Sokka, Toph, even Zuko, who joined later. All of them were united, built up their friendship, and had to stick together to defeat Ozai. In The Legend of Korra, Asami, the non-bender of the team, randomly disappears for half of the second season, and no one seems to care too much. In the first seasons of the show, it just doesn't feel like Team Avatar in The Legend of Korra has to stick together. Not for the sake of a higher purpose, not for the sake of friendship. The relationships within the team are far too random. Like even in the last season's finale where Asami and Korra end up as a couple, it feels like the relationship didn't have enough of a build-up. It would have been better if they had realized their feelings a little bit earlier, and we could have gotten to see them being a couple a little longer, instead of watching them try to win Mako over again and again.
I agree with the fact that the last seasons were the most successful ones, but by focusing on the main cast, you forget all the other awesome characters we've met throughout the series of The Legend of Korra. The good characters like Varric, Julie, Bolin, Suyin, and Lin Beifong, the confused ones like Batar Jr., and the ambitious antagonists like Amon, Kuvira, and Unalak. They make The Legend of Korra stand out on its own, even while Korra, Mako, Bolin, and Asami aren't yet as attractive to the audience as they become in the latter seasons.
Well, I never said there is nothing enjoyable about The Legend of Korra. I just said that one shouldn't watch it after Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang's story sets expectations so high, it's really hard to deal with the quality of what Korra has to offer in Book 1.
I guess it's true, but you must admit that The Legend of Korra is also more mature, Mr. Scoffer. Like, The Last Airbender raises plenty of mature themes too, but in the time of Korra, the world seems less black and white? More complex? Unfortunately, you can't ensure eternal peace in the world by ending a single war. And defeating even one of the most powerful beings in the world doesn't mean there won't be other villains seeking power. That makes The Legend of Korra feel more realistic than The Last Airbender. And don't you like that about movies and animated series?
Usually I do. But maybe you've just named another reason why it feels strange watching The Legend of Korra right after The Last Airbender, Mr. Fullylover. The Last Airbender is a story that is both wise and kind, with the elements of a fairy tale in it, and the setting of The Legend of Korra feels more rough and down to earth. The events of The Legend of Korra take place decades after Aang's victory. His world changed, and if you watch The Legend of Korra right after The Last Airbender, this change might feel distressing, as if a magical world lost part of its charm, as if the harmony Aang and his friends reached in the end of their journey disappeared right in front of your eyes.
But still, as long as you don't expect The Legend of Korra to be exactly like The Last Airbender in its atmosphere and setting, both of these shows make great legends, and both of them are magical!
Maybe it's the only correct way to watch these two shows, Mr. Fullylover. Don't try to reach for connections. View The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra as two separate stories, and you'll enjoy the second show much more without spoiling the first one for yourself.
And what do you guys think? Did you watch both shows straight after each other? Did you like it that way?
Let us know in the comments.
Roar!